Right here.
I'm Catherine Herridge, ahead on Weekend Live. Developing right now a major anti-war protest here in Washington, but will the crowds match the hype? We're live at the scene. Fox News confirming a warning to local and state law enforcement that extremist groups may be applying for school bus licenses. We'll investigate the threat and whether it's real. And thought you were done with Old Man Winter? Another round of snow and ice is grounding hundreds of flights across the country. And on a lighter note, the competition is tightening up on American Idol. The editor of Us magazine is here with reporters checking in from Los Angeles to Kabul, Afghanistan. This is Weekend Live. And we begin this hour with a Fox News alert. Right now, an anti-war march is slated to begin here in the nation's capital. Organizers claim as many as 30,000 will show up. The Iraq invasion was 4 years ago this week. Also gathering right now, a counter-protest, but will it lead to violence? Caroline Shively is live near the Lincoln Memorial. Caroline, what's the status right now?
Well, we're about 30 minutes from this march kicking off. You mentioned 30,000 people were supposed to take part in this march, but take a look. We're seeing a much smaller crowd than we anticipated. They had said earlier this week maybe hundreds of thousands of people will be showing up for the march, supposed to be 30,000. We're only seeing thousands here. That over there, you were looking at the war protesters. Take a look at some of those signs. You see U.S. out of Iraq now, impeach Bush. They've been here for several hours, coming by the busload from all over the country. Tuesday is, of course, the 4th anniversary of the Iraqi invasion, and they are here to protest it. Coming up within 30 minutes, they'll be walking down the street here, Catherine, across the Memorial Bridge and down to the Pentagon, a little over a mile-long walk. But here's the police in the middle, and they're trying to keep these two groups apart. You spoke about the pro-troop group. They are counter-protesting. They are here to protect the memorials, they say, in case anyone in that crowd gets too rowdy. They want to protect the memorials. They want to show their support for the troops. So far, only a couple shoving matches, just some scuffles. That's all that we've seen between these two groups. But I can tell you the cops here are looking pretty nervous. In my 5 years of reporting protests in the nation's capital, I've never seen anything like this. 30 minutes from now, we'll see what happens. Catherine?
Keep us posted. Thanks. The other big story that's developing right now is the weather. Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth is at the Fox Weather Center with today's forecast. How's it looking, Rick?
Yeah, much better, certainly after the big storm that affected all the Northeast. This is kind of the last of it now, the last gasp. Still looking at winter storm warnings across parts of New Hampshire and into Maine, but we're actually starting to see some rain mix in here now, pulling up across areas of Maine. But you see most of the Northeast looking pretty good, and where we saw all of the snow, now kind of warmer air moving in over it. So it's actually crossed back in towards rain around Bangor. That means flooding is going to be a bit of a concern. We saw the snow. Now you'll see some pretty good rainfall, melting some of that snow pretty rapidly. So be careful for that across the area. Here's a look at your temperatures. 23 in Buffalo, still very cool. These temperatures below average across really most of the eastern part of the country. It's going to stick with us for about the next 2 to 3 days, unfortunately. Only 45 in Atlanta right now, 55 down in Pensacola. This little system moving across the central part of the country, no major problems, but a few flurries for you from around St. Louis back towards around Peoria, Illinois for the day today. I want to take you to one last spot, and that's out across the deserts of Arizona. 9 o'clock in the morning if you're waking up in Phoenix, and 82 degrees, getting up towards the mid-90s today. So very warm, early summer hitting much of the desert southwest. Catherine.
Rick, thanks a lot. Meantime, the Fed's sending a warning to local and state law enforcement across the country. Be on the lookout for potential terrorists interested in becoming school bus drivers. Adam Housley is live in Los Angeles with that story. Hi, Adam.
The government says they have no evidence to suggest that terrorists are trying to buy school buses, trying to get school bus drivers' licenses, or there's no threat to the United States. At the same time, they still have issued this warning. Now, this FBI bulletin was leaked in part yesterday to the Associated Press. It says that suspected members of extremist groups are signing up and trying to get school bus drivers' licenses here in the United States. Now, having said that, the FBI says that parents and children have absolutely nothing to fear and that there's no threats, no plots, and no history leading to any reason for concern. But many parents, while they're not taking the threat too seriously, others are holding on their kids a bit tighter.
If I had some concrete information or there was some concrete proof that, there was a cell that was doing this, maybe I'd take it more seriously. But just a nationwide bulletin that's general, I'm not going to worry about it at this moment.
I think it's awful. Terrorists and children is awful. And I probably would keep my kids off the school bus.
Now, law enforcement agencies around the country were sent the warning as part of what officials said was a routine FBI and Homeland Security Department advisory to local law enforcement, basically asking them to keep their eyes open. It noted that there's been some recent suspicious activity by foreigners who either drive school buses or are licensed to drive them. Foreigners under recent investigation include some with ties to extremist groups. Now, one member who wanted to remain anonymous, Catherine, says that they don't necessarily believe that these school bus drivers were planning on using the buses as a terrorist act, but more likely that that's their cover. They're actually working as a school bus driver and that they may be planning something else that has nothing to do with school buses. Either way, it's still an alarming connection for many parents. Catherine?
Yeah, and we've seen examples, particularly in Russia, where terrorists have taken over schools as attacks.
Well, school buses, too, even here in California. Now, it's been 25, 30 years, but you might remember or might have heard about or read about the school bus that was taken to Chowchilla years ago by a couple of thugs who basically were planning on burying the school bus. You've had a couple other threats. Even the Zodiac, that's come back in the news in recent months with the movie. He had a threat back in the early 70s to school buses and children. So it's nothing new, even here in the United States, but it's a threat that's being taken seriously, that's for sure, Catherine.
Adam, keep us posted. Thanks. The alleged D.C. madam won't be selling her client list anytime soon. A federal judge here in D.C. has ruled that Deborah Jean Palfrey cannot cash in on her 40-pound file of phone records. But that doesn't mean the names won't get out there anyway. Malini Bawa is covering that story from the newsroom. Hi, Malini.
Well, good afternoon, Catherine. She is known as the Beltway Madam, and she admits to running an upscale escort service in the Washington area for 13 years. But a judge ruled on Friday that 50-year-old Deborah Jean Palfrey cannot sell or in any way transfer phone records that could be used to publicly identify her clients. Palfrey is charged with racketeering and money laundering. Her website says she is considering selling the records to raise money for her legal defense. And she has suggested she could expose and embarrass thousands of well-known Washingtonians.
Both the independent contractors and the clientele were upscale and came from the more refined walks of life here in the nation's capital.
Palfrey's lawyer thinks the judge's order does not bar him from distributing the phone records for free. It is a moot point anyway, he says, because he has already shared copies with an undisclosed news organization. He says that doesn't prevent prosecutors from inspecting all the material.
It isn't a question of selling the list, it's finding someone to partner her to mine the list, to find the individuals who can testify as to what went on between the individual and the escort.
And now the judge has scheduled a hearing on this matter for Monday. Prosecutors allege that Palfrey ran a prostitution ring from her California home, dispatching escorts in the D.C. area to meet clients who paid up to $300 for sex. Palfrey, on the other hand, claims she ran a perfectly legal adult fantasy firm. Catherine, back to you.
Malini, thanks a lot. Meantime, on a more serious note, a major pet food manufacturer is recalling some 60 million containers of moist pet food after reports of kidney failure in dogs and cats. Menu Foods produces store brands for Walmart, Safeway, and Kroger stores. 10 pets died after eating the affected food. However, the company claims it has found no official link yet between its cuts and gravy style food and the sickened animals. Democrats continue their attacks on Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. How long will the White House stand by their man? We'll ask Rich and Bob. Our political panel is next. Could Mexican meddling have played a role in the prosecution of 2 U.S. border guards who are now serving time in federal prison? Congressman Dana Rohrabacher talks only on Fox about his demand for an investigation. And later, a foreign government found liable for a deadly attack on U.S. sailors. But will the families of the USS Cole ever see a dime? That's coming up.
The captioning for this program is brought to you by
Activon Ultra Strength Joint and Muscle. Apply directly where it hurts. Activon, safe and effective pain relief. Activon Ultra Strength Joint and Muscle. In stores now.
Ever think, what flavors are getting into your butter? The Flavor Protect wrapper from Land O'Lakes keeps the creamy taste you love in, other flavors out. Only from Land O'Lakes.
Mr. Bloom, you're a homeowner. Don't worry about a thing.
Thank you. Adjustable rates come at you fast. Get a low fixed rate home loan from Ditech. Call 1-800-71-FIX today. Ditech, a GMAC company.
I'm looking for my perfect match. I'm into sharing lots of pictures, quiet times, must be virus-free. Got anything like that?
Sure. Take a look at this notebook down here.
With over 60,000 Windows Vista trained employees, Best Buy will match you up with a PC you'll love.
This gateway is perfect for what you want to do.
And Geek Squad can personalize it for you.
Now when you buy a new PC, get this great offer from Geek Squad. It's time to love your PC. Come find your match at Best Buy.
I feel great, really great, even with osteoporosis. And you know what? Deciding on a treatment with my doctor was almost easier than deciding what to wear tonight. To treat my osteoporosis, I take Boniva, 1 pill a month. Boniva helps me build strong, healthy bones to prevent fractures.
Unlike weekly treatments like Fosamax, you only need Boniva once a month.
So for me, Boniva was just a smart choice.
You should not take Boniva if you have low blood calcium, severe kidney disease, or cannot sit or stand for at least 60 minutes. Follow dosing instructions carefully. Stop taking Boniva and tell your doctor if you experience difficult or painful swallowing, chest pain, or severe or continuing heartburn, as these may be signs of serious upper digestive problems.
Look, having strong, healthy bones is so important. I've got this one body and this one life, so I'm going to do my best to get it right. Talk to your doctor about Boniva. I'm glad I did.
Don't wait another week. Ask your doctor for a free trial offer or call 1-800-4-BONIVA. Once monthly Boniva.
A country on the brink of annihilation. A leader fighting against all odds.
I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat.
He faced down evil and left a legacy of extraordinary courage.
Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror.
What really drove him to greatness? We reveal the inner strength and struggles of Winston Churchill. Sunday, don't miss an all-new War Stories with Oliver North.
A tough week for the Bush administration, controversies at the Justice Department and the Pentagon, but Democrats trying to make it into the White House have some problems of their own. Here with their take, Democratic strategist Bob Beckel, a Fox News contributor, and Republican strategist Rich Galen of Mullings.com. Let's start with the Attorney General. Bob, do you think he can survive?
I don't think he survived for two reasons. One, he put both, the story has been shifting, as we know, and now the latest iteration is that Harriet Miers, in fact, did not come up with this idea. The real problem is that Gonzales went before the Congress and denied that there's any political motive behind it. Does the President of the United States have a right to fire U.S. attorneys? Absolutely. It was just the gang who couldn't shoot straight, and ultimately somebody's got to hang out, and I think it's going to be Gonzales.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and it's too bad, I think, but this was unbelievably inept in the way it was handled. As Bob says, all the administration had to do, all Gonzales had to do was when asked why these people were fired, was to say, because they serve at the pleasure of the president, thank you for calling, goodbye. And that was it. And nothing, and they could not subpoena anything, didn't matter what else happened. So, I don't think the chief of staff at the Justice Department is going to be a kind of a big enough
No, that's
person
exactly
to
right. It's not enough, a big enough fish. It's not a big enough fish.
And they've got Fred Fielding, who's one of the most respected lawyers in this town, as the White House counsel.
He won't be fired, though. I'll guarantee you he's going to read like this. I resign for personal reasons. I want to spend more time with my family.
But my point is that Fred Fielding can sail through a confirmation process in about an hour.
I agree.
Let's move on to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Peter Pace, saying this week that homosexual acts are immoral. We had a pretty confused response from the Democrats. What was your take, Bob?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised he would say it. I mean, it's too bad he did. But I think Hillary Clinton was late in coming. I mean, it looked too calculated. Even Obama looked a little stalled on the issue because they were both sort of stepping away from it. Finally, they came around, Obama before Clinton. But I'll tell you, this is an important constituency for the Democratic Party. There was only one answer. He shouldn't have said it. It was a bad idea, and it's not immoral. But it took him 4 days to say it.
That wasn't enough of an answer, especially for Mrs. Clinton, I think, because she's a woman, and people, men have this thing about can women be commander-in-chief. And I think what didn't happen on part of the press corps is nobody said, if you were commander-in-chief, what would you do? What she needed to say was, if Pace were the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and I were the president, he'd be gone this afternoon.
Bill Clinton got in a little trouble over this issue when he started off as well, speaking of...
But isn't this a sign that she's very programmed and surrounded by consultants?
Yeah, I think she's a much better candidate than she appears to be. She's just as consultant to death. And being a former consultant, I shouldn't really be dumping on the process, but you can just tell. It is too formulated, and every answer seems to be calculated, and that's not what people want.
I think is a bigger problem. I think that the people who are around her were the same people, essentially, who were around Bill,
Yeah.
and they had Bill as their candidate. I mean, we know Bill Clinton. He's a friend, and she's no Bill Clinton. And they're trying to get her to
say he was a friend of yours.
Well, you got the why
I got the drift. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
But it would be like saying we're going to bring in, you know, that I want you to hit like Ted Williams. I don't care who the batting coach is. You ain't Ted Williams. You're not going to do it.
Let's just talk a little bit about the developing story today here in Washington. Big anti-war protest and also a counter-protest. Do you think this really registers on Capitol Hill?
No, I don't really think it does. You know, I was telling Rich earlier, I was at the Pentagon demonstration in 1967 when I was a freshman in college, protesting the war in Vietnam. We didn't end up doing anything there but getting thrown in jail, if I remember right. But I think the point here, though, is that this war is a divisive war in the country, but it's not like Vietnam. It is not quite as black and white as Vietnam was, in or out. I think people recognize this is a war we want to get out of, clearly, but they don't think that there's an easy, simple answer to it, and we've seen that on the Hill.
Yeah, I drove past it on my way over here, and I was laughing about the fact that they don't even have a good rhythm for the chant. It was something like, get the U.S. out of Iraq now, and I was laughing to myself, that's a chant in 5/4 time. It's a little hard to get everybody kind of tuned up.
Only you would notice that. You know?
A man of many gifts.
Yeah,
Rich and
right.
Bob, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to have you.
Meantime, violence continues in Iraq today. We'll tell you about the latest attacks, including one involving the use of toxic chlorine, and new questions surrounding Karl Rove, the president's senior political advisor, and his role in the firing of 8 U.S. attorneys. Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace has the showdown between the White House and Congress.
The sharpshooters, the rainmakers, the Mr. Big Shots. We set them up with strength, power, and free high speed, and assist their fadeaways with a dream team of sumptuous beds and linens as crisp and cool as the other side of the pillow.
Courtyard, redesigned by business travelers for business travelers.
Boom shakalaka.
Emily's cut was so small. I thought washing it was enough, but then it got all red, and when it started to swell, the doctor said it might be infected and to come in right away.
To help prevent infection, even the smallest cuts need Neosporin. Neosporin kills more types of infectious bacteria than even the leading prescription, and it helps cuts heal 4 days faster.
I will never leave another cut untreated.
Nothing protects better against serious infection. Neosporin, every cut, every time.
Your risks are always evolving. Shouldn't your insurance stay in sync? Travelers.
Hello, hello, how are you? Hello, hello, how have you been? It's good to see you, my friend. So until we meet again.
Nothing brings people together like boating. Get started with your free DVD at discoverboating.com.
What can you do with the equity in your home? Pay off bills, make home improvements, send your daughter to college, and more. Chase, America's home lending expert, has a home equity solution designed to fit your needs. And with just one call, Chase makes it easy. Take the Coopers, for example.
With Chase, there are no application fees or closing costs. And best of all, we lowered our rate and ended up saving hundreds of dollars.
Thinking of remodeling? With just one call, we updated our kitchen. At Chase, they let us lock in a balance to a fixed rate. That's what you'd expect from America's home lending expert. And at Chase, you won't pay any closing costs. Already have a home equity line of credit? Chase can show you how to save money by refinancing to a lower rate. Apply today. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Call now, 1-800-434-7612. Visit chase.com/home2.
Right now in real time, a sudden burst of sleet, snow, and ice across the Northeast is forcing delays and cancellations at airports across the country. A convoy of Israeli armed forces took at least 8 Palestinians prisoner during a raid on a refugee camp in the West Bank this morning. Israel says its army is looking for militants in bomb factories. This weekend, new protests against the war in Iraq here in D.C. They're marching from the Vietnam War Memorial to the Pentagon. Counter-protesters say the memorial should not be used as props for political statements, and that's what we're watching right now. 5 dead and dozens injured after a Russian passenger jet like this one crash lands in the city of Samara. Russian TV says the plane's landing gear failed to come down, so the aircraft was forced to land on its fuselage. Officials say 57 were on board. Right now, hundreds of Iraqis and a handful of U.S. troops are being treated for exposure to chlorine gas. 3 suicide bombers detonated trucks loaded with the gas in Sunni-dominated Anbar province. Clarissa Ward is live in Baghdad with that story. Hi, Clarissa.
Hi, Catherine. Well, one of those trucks contained 200 gallons of chlorine gas, people being treated for symptoms from minor skin irritations to severe vomiting. We did hear cases of other people, including some children, who had to be medevaced out by coalition forces to receive further treatment. Now, the attacks took place yesterday afternoon. It was 2 suicide car bombers who detonated themselves in the city of Fallujah and detonated massive dump trucks filled with that chlorine gas. Another suicide bomber in the town of Ramadi. Ramadi and Fallujah, both of those are in the violent Anbar province, the heartland of the Sunni insurgency. The last couple of months, at least 4 attacks in that area where insurgents have used chlorine gas in conjunction with bombs to create crude chemical weapons. The U.S. military also found a bomb-making factory outside of Fallujah a month ago where chlorine was being used to make bombs. If dispersed efficiently in high concentrations, chlorine gas can absolutely be lethal. Now, meanwhile, Catherine, in other news, as U.S. and Iraqi forces continue operations in the Shiite stronghold city, slum of Sadr City, Muqtada al-Sadr coming out, breaking his silence in Iran and speaking out for the first time against the U.S. presence in Sadr City. Yesterday, during prayers, preachers read out a statement from him calling on his followers to shout, "No, no, America." That's a quote. After prayers, thousands of Shiites spilled out onto the streets to protest the 2-week American military presence in Sadr City. Now, Catherine, up until this point, there has been very little protest or very little reaction even to the U.S. and Iraqi presence in Sadr City. It's not clear yet whether Muqtada al-Sadr's statement will change this. Catherine?
Afghanistan is still trying to put itself back together after the fall of the Taliban, but one sinister part of the old Afghanistan is making a comeback, and that's the drug trade. Dana Lewis is live in Kabul with that story. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Catherine. We can tell you that the Afghan officials earlier this week started some of the poppy eradication programs across the country, and they are telling us, you know, this is more than a struggle just to rid Afghanistan of opium. It is really a struggle by the Afghan government against the drug warlords and also against insurgents. We can show you some exclusive video that we took just a few days ago near Jalalabad, Fox News this week, of opium fields being plowed under police guard. Farmers didn't do this willingly and said they were angry with the government for taking away their income. But overall, in Afghanistan, drug production is way up, 60% up last year. It's expected to rise again in 2007. Afghanistan supplies over 90% of opium supplies to the world. It is now 35%, opium production sales, 35% of the Afghan economy. Now, NATO and UN officials say proceeds from the drug trade are funding the resurgence of the Taliban here.
That the drugs are feeding, they are definitely feeding the Talibans, and the drug traffickers are feeding the Talibans and the other way around. So it's a vicious circle of all these things going together, and that is a common interest between the insurgents and the drug traffickers to destabilize the country.
And the effects on Afghans themselves, Afghanistan is now said to have over 1 million drug users in the country. And Catherine, we're told a lot of the problem in getting rid of the opium production here is in corruption in the government. We can tell you that the anti-corruption, the director of the anti-corruption department here was convicted in the 1980s in Las Vegas for selling heroin, and he served 4 years in a U.S. prison. Back to you, Catherine.
Incredible. Dana, thanks. Emotions are running high as a grand jury considers the case of 3 New York cops accused of shooting an unarmed black man at his bachelor party. The indictments may surprise you. 2 U.S. border agents behind bars fighting for their freedom, and one congressman says the Mexican government may have pressured the U.S. prosecutors. Congressman Dana Rohrabacher is next. And you've heard the saying, behind every good man is a good woman. We'll investigate the role of wives and a husband in the race for the White House.
Every time you try to put your necklace on, it's a hassle. That's because you have to get those 2 tiny little clasps to hook together. And if you got long nails, forget it. You actually need someone to do it for you. But now, putting on your jewelry just got a lot easier. Because now, there's Clever Clasp, the magnetic jewelry clasp that attaches to any necklace. Then, just bring them together and they click and lock. Simply attach a Clever Clasp to each end of your jewelry and that's it. Bring them together and your jewelry's on, even behind your back when you can't see what you're doing. Watch, just get them close, and your jewelry's on.
Clever Clasp is available in silver or gold to complement all your jewelry.
Plus, the super strength magnets are guaranteed to grip and never slip. So even your heaviest necklaces are perfectly secure. And no more hassling to get your bracelets on either. With Clever Clasp, it's a snap, perfect for anyone who has trouble seeing or difficulty reaching back to hook their necklace. Even with long nails, Clever Clasp is a snap. Plus, our deluxe Clever Clasp has a built-in locking device to keep all your jewelry safe and secure. Just bring them together and your jewelry is on. So stop struggling with your jewelry or relying on someone else to help. Call now and get a set of 4 gold Clever Clasps,
a $30 value for only $14.99. As an added bonus, you'll also receive our 3-inch extender chain. It's perfect for adding extra length to your necklaces or just to make your jewelry a little more comfortable around your neck. But wait, call right now and we'll double the offer.
And also give you 4 silver Clever Clasps and a 3-inch silver extender absolutely free. That's right, you get 8 Clever Clasps, 4 gold and 4 silver, plus 2 extender chains, an incredible $60 value for just $14.99. But you have to call now.
To order your Clever Clasp, call 1-800-598-5642. That's 1-800-598-5642. Don't delay. Call now at 1-800-598-5642.
Beneful? Beneful? You're definitely thinking Beneful. Uh-huh. With wholesome grains, real beef, even carrots and peas. You love the taste. I love the carbohydrates for energy and protein for muscles. You only think you're getting spoiled. Spoiled? And it's good for you, too.
Real wholesome ingredients, 4 different ways. Healthful, flavorful, Beneful.
Every day, Lexmark printers go to work for some of the world's most important companies, including 75% of the top banks, retailers, and pharmacies, and their performance gets noticed. Last year, the top U.S. independent test labs awarded Lexmark more laser printer awards in its class than any other leading printer brand. Isn't it time to put Lexmark to work for your important company?
Today's top stories at the bottom of the hour. A blast of winter weather leaves much of the Northeast digging out from icy, snowy slush. The late winter snow and freezing rain are being blamed for at least 8 deaths on the highways and flight delays across the country. Passengers from Georgia to New Jersey are stranded. And in a separate demonstration, peace activists are also in Washington this weekend, holding anti-war gatherings all over the city, from the National Cathedral to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Some were arrested last night while demonstrating in front of the White House. Over 350 Iraqi civilians and at least 6 coalition forces are being treated for chemical exposure after terrorists detonated truck bombs in separate areas south of Fallujah. Coalition officials confirming that the injured were exposed to chlorine gas. Suicide car bombers have used chlorine against Iraqis in Anbar province 5 times since January 28th. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad requests time to address the UN Security Council before members vote on a new resolution that would impose new sanctions on his country for refusing to suspend its enrichment program. The president of the UN Security Council says he has received no objections to Ahmadinejad's request. Next week on the Hill, a congressional investigation into the case of two U.S. Border Patrol agents, Ignacio Ramos and Jose Campion, who are now in a federal lockup after shooting an unarmed drug smuggler. California Congressman Dana Rohrabacher asked for the hearings before the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee because he wants to know if the Mexican government played a role in their prosecution, and he joins us. So, Congressman, is there any evidence that the Mexican authorities pressured the U.S. attorneys to go after these guys?
Yeah, we have records of communication between the prosecutor, Mr. Sutton, the U.S. attorney who made the determination whether there would be a prosecution or not, and representatives of the Mexican government. After watching our president grovel before the leadership of the Mexican government just a few days ago, and now having an insight into the fact that they are pressuring our leaders to prosecute members of the Border Patrol for any infraction, this is very disturbing.
What are you hoping to get out of the hearings next week? What are you hoping to discover?
Well, let me note, their hearings will not be next week. I don't know who gave you that information.
Oh, I apologize.
What happened was, yeah, this week we have a, this week we were given permission to hold hearings. We are now conducting a thorough investigation which will result in hearings perhaps 2 or 3 months from now. And the more we look into this, the more the situation stinks, where you've got U.S. Border Patrol agents where the Mexican government is requesting our government to prosecute Border Patrol agents who've been involved with trying to stop drug dealers. Now, everybody knows they've got a corruption problem in Mexico, and we're letting that impact our decision of whether to prosecute Border Patrol agents who are trying to protect our borders against drug smugglers. It's insane. And the Ramos and Campion case exemplify that perhaps more than any other.
So one of the main questions really is whether this pressure is being exerted at the local level, at the U.S. prosecutor's office, or whether it's really reaching higher up into the administration and here in Washington. What's your assessment?
Well, I happen to believe that whatever decisions are being made along these areas are end up in the White House. I mean, what we've got is Mr. Gonzalez, who is very close to the president. Johnny Sutton, for example, the prosecutor in this case with the Ramos and Campion, very close to the president. So the president of the United States has made a deal with Mexico to basically have an open border eventually. And at least we believe that's what it is. We'd like to get the information of why there is this type of communication going on between the Mexican government and the United States government on Border Patrol policies on our side of the border. And we want our Border Patrol to make sure that this invasion of our country with illegals is stopped, as well as we don't want drug dealers and terrorists to be able to come across. Yet the Mexican government, to let them have an undue influence on our policy is ridiculous.
What do you think the long-term danger is here, if in fact it is proven that the Mexican authorities are pressuring locally and at the national level?
Well, in the long run, we have to protect our interests. Our government is there to protect the interest of the people of the United States. Now, we should be fair with the people of Mexico, and there's no doubt about it. In the past, like in water policy, I think the Mexican government has had in the past, have had a very legitimate complaint over decisions made by the United States government. But now, when it comes to letting their citizens by the millions pour into our country, and what policy we're going to have at the border, letting them determine this will do nothing but grave damage to the people of the United States, and it already is. We've got the crime rate in California and many other states is just shooting through the roof, and it's traced right back to illegals. We've got our education and our healthcare institutions where the quality is crumbling. And this administration, instead of watching out for our interests, seems to be taking an undue guidance from the Mexican government.
From Mexico.
And
well, we'll have to leave it I'm sorry, we're going to have to leave it there, but please keep us posted on your progress, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks. Reports say a grand jury is ready to announce the indictment of 3 New York City cops who killed an unarmed man the night of his bachelor party. Laura Engel is live in New York at the scene. Laura, what's really the sense about these indictments?
Hi, Catherine. Well, what we know is that the 3 officers who fired the most shots are the ones who received the indictments. Remember, there were 5 cops involved here. Now, what was inside that grand jury indictment will not be made public until Monday morning. That is when the 3 officers will be turning themselves in to the Queens County District Attorney's Office. Now, going back to last November 25th, that was supposed to be the happiest day of Sean Bell's life. He was set to marry the mother of his 2 children, but instead, he was shot and killed in his car after leaving this strip club here behind me in Queens with his friends, and 2 of them were also shot several times, and those 2 are still recuperating. The police were working undercover here at the Kahlua nightclub. This is the scene of Sean Bell's bachelor party. Police say the detectives thought one of his friends had a gun. That's when the chaos broke out. When Sean failed to stop in his car, he struck an undercover officer and an unmarked police car as well. The detectives then opened fire. 50 shots were fired in all of them by police, and there was never a gun found. The head of the detectives union doesn't agree with what's happening with the grand jury action.
The message that's being sent by the indictments is will have a chilling effect not only on New York City detectives and New York City police, but law enforcement throughout the country.
Community members have been outraged by what they have seen as use of force against Sean Bell.
All of them acted in concert. That's what they should be charged with. Anything short of that is a travesty of justice. And don't blame us when the community doesn't settle for it.
And Catherine, there had been some worries that there might be some public outcry here in Queens, but so far so good. All has been quiet. A memorial continues to grow for Sean Bell right around the corner from this strip club. And again, the big cliffhanger is what's going to happen on Monday when those indictments are unsealed and we find out exactly what those 3 officers will be charged with. Catherine?
Laura, thanks. And this is a Fox News alert. Thousands of protesters are in Washington, D.C. right now. You're looking at a live picture. They're here to protest the Iraq War, and right now they're on the move. Let's check in with Caroline Shively, who's near the Lincoln Memorial. Caroline, what's happening?
Hi there, Catherine. They just started moving here about 5 minutes ago. We're in the middle of the crowd here. It's a bit of a bottleneck because of all of these thousands of people trying to crush past the Lincoln Memorial, get over the Memorial Bridge and on to the Pentagon. But this is indeed the start of it. You know, 30,000 people, that's what they were hoping for earlier this week. We're certainly not seeing that, probably 4,000, 5,000. But the numbers, they are getting ready. They're going down the street, getting ready to protest the war straight at the Pentagon. Reporting live down here on the Mall. Catherine, back to you.
Caroline, thanks. In some cases, they can make or break presidential campaigns. So how do the husbands and wives of the White House hopefuls stack up? Are they assets or are they baggage? And the controversy over fired U.S. attorneys is growing in Washington. Chris Wallace of Fox News Sunday will tell us where this scandal will lead.
The captioning for this program is brought to you by...
Consider this: a 3-act mouthwash. Act 1 freshens breath. Act 2 restores minerals. Act 3 strengthens tooth enamel. Act 3 acts, 1 bottle.
Here's a radically simple suggestion from eLoan. You can lower your rising monthly payments by consolidating your debt with a home equity loan and paying 1 lower monthly rate. Just call 1-800-TRY-eLoan or go to eLoan.com. eLoan, radically simple.
I'm a mother of 3 and a grandmother. My husband, he said I was hot.
I haven't had this smoking hot body since I was in college.
You can't miss the results of the new Nutrisystem Nourish, the easy weight loss program that lets you eat great and lose weight.
I'm a 40-year-old mom, and I think I look better than ever.
Call or go online now to get 4 weeks of delicious meals and lose weight. Plus, you'll also get an extra week of Nutrisystem meals free.
It's so simple. With Nutrisystem, if you can eat, you can lose weight.
Our secret is the breakthrough science of the glycemic advantage that separates good carbs from bad.
My husband loves my new body. In fact, he jokingly calls me his trophy wife.
Nutrisystem delivers every meal to your door, and shipping is free.
I love it, I love it, I love it.
For about $10 a day, you'll enjoy 4 weeks of perfectly portioned meals.
How can you argue with results like these?
Get our 4-week program, and we'll send you an extra 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches, 7 dinners, and 7 desserts. A full week of food absolutely free. Call now.
Are you receiving payments from an insurance company? Maybe you have a structured settlement or purchased an annuity, and you're receiving small monthly payments. If you'd rather have a lump sum of cash now, J.G. Wentworth can help. You see, J.G. Wentworth is the nation's largest and most experienced financial services company, specializing in helping people convert their monthly insurance payments into the cash they need today. The nation's leading financial publications have taken notice and are recognizing Wentworth's market-leading services. Perhaps you were in an accident and received a structured settlement as a result. Or maybe you bought or inherited an annuity and want to convert those monthly payments into cash you can use today. Thousands of people just like you are taking advantage of J.G. Wentworth's unparalleled access to the financial markets to get the customized payout they need today. Call us now. Our experienced advisors are standing by. Call 866-429-6218.
Right now in real time, an FBI bulletin is warning schools to be wary of foreign nationals interested in driving school buses. The feds say they issued the warning to be on the safe side, adding that parents and children have nothing to fear. Authorities in Mexico collect $206 million in cash from a Mexico City house connected with one of the largest methamphetamine networks in the southern hemisphere. And Palestinian journalists protest the armed abduction earlier this week of a BBC reporter. The kidnapping is one of more than a dozen in Gaza over the last 18 months, and that's what we're watching right now. They don't call them first ladies for nothing. A big factor in any presidential candidate's electability can be his or her spouse. And in 2008, the presidential race is already promising to be an interesting mix of better halves, but will it make for better candidates? We report, you decide.
Running for president can be a package deal, especially with the Clintons, who celebrate their 32nd wedding anniversary in October.
I think a lot of people had expected to downplay her connections with her husband as she did in her Senate race. Now she talks freely about them and uses his record, his appearances, his draw on the stump and at fundraisers as one of her biggest pitches.
He left office on a high note, and at some point she is going to have to run on her own record, her own accomplishments as a senator, and stop using him as a crutch. And I think that's the real danger she faces.
When Republican Rudy Giuliani considered a Senate race against Hillary Clinton in 2000, he was still on wife number 2, Donna Hanover. It was a bitter parting of the ways before he married Judith Nathan.
Certainly, Judith Nathan Giuliani has the exotic factor going for her. When Mayor Giuliani was getting ready to run, they had those photos of them necking in the tabloids. Everybody was like, get a room. But she's a reminder of one of his biggest drawbacks. And so I think it may be tough for her to be an effective asset.
That's why you see his campaign focusing so much on 2 issues. He's a business leader and a crime fighter, and I think he's trying to build a reservoir of goodwill that will help him overcome some of these messier aspects of his personal life.
Democrat John Edwards is positioning himself on the far left of the party. Political observers believe his wife, a former lawyer and mother who beat breast cancer, will be effective selling his positions.
Elizabeth Edwards, I think, is very appealing to your average female voter. Here's a woman, she doesn't look perfect, she doesn't have perfect hair, she's a little overweight, but she's happy, she's overcome adversity, and she is a strong woman.
Democrat Barack Obama's wife is also a lawyer and described as one of his most important advisors, yet she is still an unknown to many voters.
People aren't sure yet about Michelle Obama. She's quiet in public. You see her in some of these more intimate settings where she's very outspoken, even abrasive. And the question is, will she outshine him?
Republican Mitt Romney, the only Mormon in the field, married his high school sweetheart in 1968. This candidate promotes strong family values. He is the only top-tier candidate still on his first wife.
More than any of the campaigns, the Romney campaign is convinced that Mrs. Romney is a huge asset. She's a survivor of multiple sclerosis. A lot of people are very touched by that story. And Governor Romney points to their long marriage as an example of his faith may be unknown to a lot of people, but it can't be that bad if it's produced this marriage, this children.
Rounding out the field, Republican John McCain, who married Cindy, a former teacher with family money, in 1980.
It's wife number 2, but he's been married to his current wife for a number of years. They have children together. And again, Americans understand divorce. 50% of marriages don't succeed in America.
And while we're on politics, this week in Washington, the debate over fired U.S. attorneys threatened to boil over, as the traditional questions like who knew what and when begin to surface. The host of Fox News Sunday, Chris Wallace, is here. You have 2 of the U.S. attorneys who were fired on your show
That's right,
this
2
week.
of the 8. Bud Cummins from Arkansas, he was replaced by a former aide to Karl Rove. So that really brings us into the White House. And then David Iglesias in New Mexico, he was the one who was called by Pete Domenici, the senator from New Mexico, and a congresswoman before the election and asked, are you going to have to prosecute these Democrats? So that brings up the whole question, were these guys fired for performance reasons or because they didn't toe the political line?
Well, initially, what the Department of Justice said is that there were job-related issues with them, but now that seems that it just doesn't wash.
Well, it certainly, there's a lot of explaining that has to be done because we've gotten, and it's not over yet, this torrent of email back and forth between the White House, the Justice Department, involving a whole lot of political issues, not just performance issues. In fact, the 2 guys we're going to have on both got very positive performance reviews from the Justice Department. We're also going to be talking to Arlen Specter. Specter, of course, the top Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's very important because I think Gonzalez's fate, the Attorney General's fate, may lie in the hands of whether or not they continue to get support from the Republicans in the Senate. And finally, we're going to have John Kerry, the Democrat, to talk not only about this, but also it's the 4th anniversary of the war in Iraq. We'll be talking about that as well.
And what has Arlen Specter's position been? Has he been on the fence or has he declared?
No, he has not said yet. He says that, in fact, he wasn't even for the subpoenas of Rove and Harriet Miers. He says he wants the White House to decide. It's going to be interesting to ask him because there are at least 2 U.S. senators Republicans who have declared that they're against Gonzalez. Feel he has to step down for the effectiveness of the Justice Department. We'll be asking Arlen Specter tomorrow how he feels.
Yeah, final question. Rich and Bob were here earlier in the broadcast, and they both felt that Gonzalez would not survive. You've seen a lot of these controversies play out over the years. Is that your sense as well?
Well, let me say this. My sense is that that's where the smart money is in Washington now, that he's just too damaged. You know, the Attorney General is very important, not just in terms of administering justice in this country, but also he's the main spokesman of the administration on the war on terror when it comes to things like the Patriot Act. To have a guy who isn't trusted on Capitol Hill, especially by the Democratic majority up there, who's as sullied, as damaged as he is, it may be that the White House just feels as close as he is to the president, time for him to go.
And the final question quickly, I mean, he really is the example, though, for Hispanics in this country of how high someone can go within the government. So if he did resign, it would be a real loss for
Well, it would be a loss, and it would also be a political loss. You can be sure that the White House is factoring that in. He is our top Hispanic appointee. He is the first Hispanic ever to be named Attorney General, and to have him now fired by the president when there is no egregious wrongdoing might be seen as a political hit for them.
Chris, thanks a lot. Look forward to the show. The changing face of terror. In some cases, it takes only weeks for al-Qaeda terrorists to make the leap from follower to suicide bomber. We'll investigate next. And we'll tell you why the FBI thinks you should keep a close eye on school buses in your neighborhood. This is Weekend Live.
No, we only give loans to big business.
Good afternoon. My business plan is fantastic.
What's that?
And as you can see, our
those
growth
small
last year was
business
off the
owners.
charts. Research indicates this trend will continue well into next year. Now, if you turn your attention to my 10-year forecast,
Does your bank think small about your small business? Call Capital One instead for no-hassle business loans, lines of credit, and credit cards. Check your mailbox.
Hello, Capital One.
What's in your wallet?
Piers, what's with the new sports car? How about a ride?
Maybe. Hey, Walter, let's play some golf this afternoon.
Oh, sorry. I haven't sold anything all month.
Dude, how do you do it? You sold $3 million this quarter already. Motley, only fools work hard. I work smart. I use salesgenie.com. I get just the right sales leads.
For 100 free sales leads, go to salesgenie.com.
To engineer a rewards card for a business like yours, Open from American Express rewrote the rules. We started with business-sized spending power. Enough to buy inventory, supplies, and equipment. Spending power that can grow with your business. Because businesses spend more, you deserve more. So we put no expiration dates or limits on the number of points you can earn. And we reward you faster with accelerated bonuses that can speed you to as many as 100,000 points in just 1 year. Good for 4 domestic airline tickets or other great rewards for you, your employees, and your business. The Business Gold Rewards Card from American Express. Expanding rewards to business dimensions. That's open. How American Express serves small business. Call 800-965-OPEN to apply. We'll start you on your way to 100,000 points and waive the fee for 1 year.
Get all the college hoops you can handle with the ESPN Full Court Pay-Per-View Package, available on Dish Network's season ticket. Up to 30 games per week, top conferences, critical matchups you won't get in your area. The most complete college basketball pay-per-view package anywhere. Hoops Heaven is only a phone call or click away. The ball's in your court. Order now. $75. To order, call 1-877-DISH-PPV or log on to dishnetwork.com/basketball.
Homeowners, want to refinance and get cash? Countrywide has a great reason to do it now. A no-cost refi. It has no points, no application fee, no credit reporting fee, and no third-party fees, no title, escrow, or appraisal fees. Absolutely no closing costs, so you'll wind up with a lot more cash. Call now and ask for a no-cost refi. We're America's #1 home loan lender, and no one can do what Countrywide can. Call 1-800-641-8298.
Despite progress in talks with Pyongyang, North Korea's top nuclear envoy said today his country will not stop its nuclear activity unless $25 million now frozen in Banco Delta Asia are fully released. The bank has been blacklisted by Washington since September 2005 for its complicity in North Korean money laundering. They're the ones who handle the fake $100 bills. And a special report for the White House Homeland Security Advisory Council, one of the most important advisory bodies to the president, says the traditional profile for terrorists is changing. More suspects are educated, middle class, and in some cases they are white Americans. Frank Salufo is the former special assistant to the president on Homeland Security and now at George Washington University. Frank, thanks. I want to start with a quote from your report. It reads in part, "There's every indication that the number and magnitude of attacks on the United States, its interests, and its allies will likely increase." How did your team reach that conclusion?
You know, this was a group effort, but the bottom line here is while we've had some successes on Al-Qaeda Classic, what we've seen is the spreading to some extent of terrorism, and what you have are groups that think globally but act locally. In other words, think of them as local chapters or franchises throughout the country that may not be directly linked to Osama bin Laden, who's more of a chief ideological officer today than an operational officer. But the bottom line is terrorism is spreading. Let's talk about the Internet, because your report also concludes that the Internet is really facilitating terrorist activity. How is that happening? Well, in essence, we've created this global village without a police department, and the Internet provides opportunities for others to shrink the world and to connect, and there's a lot of like-minded individuals who are meeting on the Internet, and it reaffirms aberrant attitudes. Quite honestly, we're losing the war of ideas on the Internet. The adversaries are pretty good. We've got some videotape from a web posting by Adam Gadon. He is sort of the poster boy for Western al-Qaeda members. He's a native of California. It's striking how this idea that people connect with these ideas in a way that they don't in person has really taken hold. You know, people will also write in emails, probably myself included, what they would never say in person, and there is a bonding nature. Now, at some point, you have to go from the virtual to the physical, and that's where we need to be able to intercept and intervene as quickly as we can. Are there cases now where we see individuals who make the leap from an al-Qaeda follower or someone who is like-minded to a suicide bomber? You know, we do need to see what that life cycle is, from sympathizer to activist to indiscriminate violence, and based on recent UK reporting, yes, this happens pretty quickly.
In a matter of weeks, because, you know, in the old days, people had to go to the camps in Afghanistan. They would go to the madrasas in Pakistan, and this cycle would take a couple of years. But now you're saying it can be really compressed to a matter of months.
Very much so. And in many cases, the internet and chat rooms have replaced the smoke-filled bars of the Le Carré novel. So yes, it shrinks the world.
What's the changing face of terrorists? We've seen several reports, especially in Western Europe, of white women, people with families and children. Is that really the model?
You see, the way I look at it is you have three tiers. You do still have Al-Qaeda Classic, which is resurgent.
And is that like bin Laden?
That's Osama bin Laden. Then you have the franchising of terrorism, and then you have the leaderless movement. These are individuals who are inspired, who want to join a greater cause, and that's where we have some serious issues in the West.
Because everyone likes to think that these are sort of freaks that are doing this, but more and more we are seeing people with stable home lives getting involved.
In fact, most of the demographics are well educated, most have college degrees, and we're talking about individuals, it's medicine, IT, these are the fields that we're looking at.
And what's the bottom line for you in terms of combating this?
The bottom line is it takes all instruments of government to counter this. I think the military instrument needs to be pulled to the back, and we need to recognize that we have to win hearts and minds and remove terrorist masterminds.
Frank, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thousands of protesters are rallying right now in Washington, D.C. against the war in Iraq. 4 years since it began. We are live on the scene. And a judge in the D.C. Madam case blocks her efforts to sell her so-called client list. She claims it runs to 10,000 names, but it may be too late already. That's coming up.
Are you tired of struggling with embarrassing facial hair? Well, put that tweezer and mirror away, because now it's easy with Tweezy. Tweezy is an amazing breakthrough that not only automatically finds, grasps, and removes unwanted hair, but helps keep hair from growing back for weeks. Guaranteed.
The secret is Tweezy's patented technology that attracts hair like a magnet from every angle, so it's virtually impossible to miss a hair. It's 30 times faster than ordinary tweezers.
And unlike razors or trimmers that cause ugly stubble, Tweezy removes hair from the root, so you can go for weeks without worrying about unwanted hair.
Watch, we used a trimmer on one side of this chin and Tweezy on the other. And look, 6 weeks later, the Tweezy side is still smooth.
There's never been anything like it. If you can feel it, Tweezy can remove it.
I used to use trimmers every day, but I used Tweezy on my lips 6 weeks ago, and it's still smooth.
Sometimes it's hard to see if I got all the hairs on my face. But with Tweezy, I have confidence that all my embarrassing hairs are gone, and it lasts for weeks.
Tweezy is portable, safe, and gentle. Use Tweezy to remove unwanted hair around your chin, lip, underarms, legs, feet, and more. At last, you can have a beautiful bikini line. No more razor burn, no more waxing. Electrolysis is expensive, and plucking takes forever. But Tweezy is easy. You'll never have to worry about unwanted hair again. But wait, call within the next 10 minutes and you'll get MJoy's Hair Growth Inhibitor. Helps leave skin soft and hair-free for weeks. Imagine that's a $60 value, all for only $19.95.
I guarantee Tweezy is the best way to remove unwanted hair for weeks or your money back. Just remember, if it's easy, it's Tweezy. Call now.
Call 1-800-647-4229 to get your Tweezy hair remover for $19.95. Call now and get the bonus hair growth inhibitor absolutely free. That's 1-800-647-4229.
Are all gasolines the same? At Shell, we're constantly testing to prove there is a difference. From in the lab to driving 5,000 miles on the open road. And while some interesting things happened during the testing, the results proved even more interesting. Low-quality discount gasolines can allow performance-robbing gunk to build up in your engine. Shell gasolines stop gunky buildup, helping your car perform at its best. Now that's a difference.
I'm Catherine Herridge, ahead on Weekend Live. 4 years since the start of the war in Iraq, and right now tens of thousands are expected to mark it with protests in the nation's capital. Also in the nation's capital, a former madam will not be able to pay her legal fees by selling phone records and other documents that could identify thousands of her clients, but her lawyer says it may be too late. And an ominous warning from the feds trying to stop terrorism here at home. That's coming up right here, right now on Weekend Live. Thousands of anti-war protesters rally in Washington, D.C. right now, 4 years after the Gulf War began. Caroline Shively is right there in the middle of it. Caroline, what's happening right now?
Well, Catherine, 30 minutes ago, they began this march. You can see the thousands of people who've been waiting here at the Lincoln Memorial. A couple folks walking through here. Thousands of people at the Lincoln Memorial are now under the way. They're walking through the streets. They're going to be going onto Memorial Bridge, cross down, and then they'll be at the Pentagon for about a 3-hour rally. They'll hear from Cindy Sheehan and other anti-war activists. Take a look at this crowd. It's not the hundreds of thousands of folks they were promising just a few weeks ago, or even the 30,000 that they got the permit to march for. We're guessing, just eyeballing, it's probably about 5,000 people. Possibly because of the weather. It's a cold and nasty day here in Washington, but the folks who are here are certainly fired up. You can see some of their signs. They say guilty of war crimes, impeach Bush, U.S. out of Iraq now. They are definitely fired up. What you probably can't see, Catherine, on the other side are the counter-protesters. Folks who say they are here to support the troops and to speak against these folks and to guard the monuments. There was some worry earlier today that some of those monuments may be defaced, but I haven't heard any reports of that. Catherine?
Caroline, thanks a lot, and keep us posted. Watch out for terrorists signing up to be school bus drivers. That's the warning to local law enforcement coming from Homeland Security here in Washington, as well as the FBI. Adam Housley is tracking that story in Los Angeles. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Catherine. While the FBI and the government says they have no evidence to suggest that terrorists are either buying school buses or, for that matter, getting licenses to drive them, and that there's no immediate threat to the United States, at the same time, the FBI has issued a warning. Now, according to this warning, which in parts were leaked to the press, they say that members of extremist groups have signed up as school bus drivers here in the United States. Now, having said that, the FBI says parents and children have nothing to fear, and there are no threats, no plots, no history leading to any reason for concern. Now, one FBI spokesman, Rich Kolko, said, quote, "There are no threats, no plots, as we mentioned, no history leading us to believe there's no reason for concern," as I've now said twice because I didn't realize I had the quote in front of me. Having mentioned that and that comment from the FBI, parents are reacting, many of them saying, you know what, this is the same thing we have to worry about because it's the times we live in.
We can't keep an eye on a bomb on the bottom of a bus or whatever other things they threaten. I'm sure it's psychological terror, and it works, but I mean, you know, you can only do what you can do.
Now, law enforcement agencies around the country were sent this warning as part of what officials said was a routine FBI and Homeland Security Department advisory, which went out to local law enforcement to basically tell them to keep their eyes open for anything. And it noted some recent suspicious activities by foreigners who either drive school buses or are licensed to drive them. Now, some of these foreigners, they say, are under investigation right now. Now, another FBI spokesman, Catherine, spoke about how they don't necessarily believe that these people are planning to use school buses as an act of terrorism, but this actually may be a cover. Some of these terrorists that they're monitoring, or these people that are suspicious they're monitoring, may be driving school buses as a cover and plans on doing other attacks of some sort against the national security. Catherine?
Adam, thanks. $206 million in cash and 8 luxury vehicles seized from a home in Mexico City. And now Mexico's Attorney General says it's all tied to one of the Western Hemisphere's biggest drug trafficking busts. Apparently, the ring has been selling a major ingredient for methamphetamines for the last 3 years. Mexican authorities say it was the largest seizure of drug money ever in their country's history. Meantime, police in Aurora, Colorado have a new tool to help find stolen cars. It's called Mobile Plate Hunter 900. You see it there. They're infrared cameras mounted on top of police cars that can read more than 800 license plates every hour. They instantly transmit information to a laptop computer inside the car. It beeps whenever a stolen plate is recognized. It can actually give the officer the exact year, model, make, and color of the car, even the name of the possible suspect. A federal judge has ordered the so-called D.C. madam not to sell phone records and other documents that could identify her estimated client list of about 10,000. But Malini Bawa is here in our Washington bureau to tell us that some customers should not be breathing a sigh of relief just yet. Hi, Malini.
Well, that's right, Catherine. It is possible that the judge's order could be a little bit late for former clients of the woman known as the Beltway Madam. The judge ruled Friday that 50-year-old Deborah Jean Palfrey cannot sell or in any way transfer the 46 pounds of phone records that could be used to identify her former clients, the clients of her escort service. Palfrey is facing federal racketeering and money laundering charges. Prosecutors say she ran a prostitution ring from her California home, dispatching escorts in the D.C. area to meet men who paid up to $300 for sex. On her website, Palfrey states she is considering selling the records to pay for her legal defense, and she insists the business she ran for 13 years was completely legitimate.
The firm Hamill & Martin & Associates operated as a legal, high-end erotic fantasy service.
Palfrey's lawyer thinks the judge's order does not prohibit him from distributing the phone records for free. He also thinks it's all water under the bridge because he says he has already shown copies to an unnamed news organization. And he says prosecutors are still free to inspect the material.
It isn't a question of selling the list, it's finding someone to partner her to mine the list, to find the individuals who can testify as to what went on between the individual and the escort.
A hearing on the matter is scheduled for Monday. Now, Palfrey claims her business offered legal sexual services like erotic dancing and role-playing. Catherine?
That answers my question, because I was wondering if we've ever figured out what a high-end erotic fantasy service is as opposed to a low-end erotic fantasy service.
Exactly, and a legal one as well, but those are the examples that she's given.
All right, well, I guess we'll just have to keep it clean and leave it there. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
In many parts of the country, spring is not here. In fact, winter is back with a vengeance and causing a lot of problems at the airports everywhere. Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth is at the Fox Weather Center with today's forecast. How's it looking, Rick?
Hey, Catherine, certainly getting better. You know, we saw that little taste of spring across the East Coast last week. Everybody got excited, and then, you know, winter comes slamming back. And it certainly did. We saw around 1 foot to 1.5 feet of snow across interior sections, around 5 to 8 inches across coastal areas, and then across back into rain, and that's causing some flooding concerns. Here, the latest of it is, this is our storm now just across parts of Maine. Behind that now, much colder air filling back in, and windy conditions back across the lakes once again. And so all those southern shores right now of Lake Ontario dealing with that lake effect snow here from Buffalo. We'll see it around Rochester back towards Syracuse for the day today. Temperature-wise, still cool. Only into the 30s. We're going to stay into the 30s all across the Northeast today, tomorrow, and even a little bit probably into Monday. No, not really seeing any big warm-up across the eastern part of the country until Wednesday or Thursday. Meanwhile, here's a look at the rest of the country. Nice across the Central Plains today. 55 already in Wichita, 60 in Dallas, 65 in Houston. A lot of clear skies all across this area, but a big warm-up across parts of the deserts. You see these reds popping up here. Phoenix is already at 87, and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning there. Should be at 74 for a high for this time of year. Today we're going to be getting up to about 97 degrees there. It's going to cool down by Wednesday, though. That is certainly some good news. We're going to need that. Here's a look at the satellite radar picture. You can see mostly clear skies all along the southeast. We'll see still some cloud cover around the northeast behind this system, and this little disturbance here shows up on the radar picture, but no cause for any major concern. A little bit of snow flurries maybe around parts of Illinois, down across parts of western Kentucky for the day today. No major accumulation, maybe a dusting or so. That's really all our concern is at this point. You see nice conditions all around Texas. Head out across the west, have not seen any rain for a while. Unfortunately, we need it around much of Southern California. Still none in sight over the foreseeable future. Maybe a few showers around the Seattle area today. But you see this Four Corners area once again seeing a lot of sunshine. Temps continue to warm up. We start to see a pattern shift, though, Catherine. By the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll cool things down a little bit in the west. And by Thursday, warm things up in towards the east. Catherine.
Thank goodness for that. Rick, thanks.
Yeah,
From New York to Detroit airports, they're all trying to play catch-up right now after canceling hundreds of flights. Well over 1,000 are grounded in New York City alone. American, Northwest, Delta, and JetBlue led the way in canceling those flights ahead of the storm. The best plan is to check with your airline before heading to the airport for the rest of the day. For 7 years now, victims of the attack on the USS Cole have been looking for some justice. Finally, a court ruling on who is to blame and whether or not they owe the victims. Angelina Jolie's latest overseas adoption is almost complete, but she and Madonna are not alone. Why more and more American families are adopting foreign kids. And idol hopeful Sanjaya makes it through another round, but that leaves some wondering how long his hair can keep him in the show.
The captioning for this program is brought to you by...
Embarrassed by rough, dry, cracked heels? Flexitol Heel Balm has a unique formulation that intensively hydrates and moisturizes feet, leaving them wonderfully soft and healthy. Flexitol, it works.
Hey, Karen.
Hey.
Any mail for me?
Nope, not today.
Bad news. 1 million termites have been feeding like sharks on our dining room wall. Did you know they can eat a pound of wood a day?
No.
No wonder termites damage more homes than fires.
I'm calling Terminix.
And the upstairs toilet's running.
What does your home know that you don't? Call Terminix for the ultimate protection more families rely on. 1-800-TERMINX.
I bought a bike to ride after work, you know, just to kind of get out and clear my head. And the front desk stores it for me when I head home for the weekends.
My doctor's making me do yoga for my back. The hotel staff rearranged my suite for me. Give me a little extra space to
Practice my putting. 10-footers, 20-footers. I even sunk a 30-footer the other day. It was beautiful.
How do you make yourself at home on the road? Get ideas and give ideas at homewithsuites.com.
How do you keep your retirement plan on track? Meet Mark Millar, investor.
I help people manage their pet's health. Make the right decisions early on. Good food, preventive care, and your pet will thrive. It's the same with retirement planning. Small actions you take today can impact what happens later. So, you need to make smart choices.
TD Ameritrade offers a broad range of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, and easy-to-use tools like Morningstar Instant X-Ray to help ensure that your portfolio is properly balanced, all with no maintenance fees.
Anyone can work toward their retirement dream.
Are you ready to declare your independence? Open an easy IRA today and get a free copy of Microsoft Money. TD Ameritrade. Independence is the spirit that drives America's most successful investors.
Go inside Anna Nicole's secret diaries. Will her most intimate thoughts reveal who fathered Danny Lynn? It's only on Geraldo at Large. Then don't miss Anna Nicole's Tragic Beauty. Geraldo examines the latest legal maneuvers and the suspicions surrounding her death. It's a special 2-hour block. It's a Hannity exclusive. Anthrax, smallpox, and even botulism, all being developed right in America's backyard. A former Cuban military official exposes Castro's deadly arsenal. It's the story that's only on Hannity's America.
This week, attempts by Democrats to legislate an end to the war in Iraq failed, but calls to push forward with efforts to cut off the money are still being heard on Capitol Hill. Senator John Kyle, Republican of Arizona, is one of the leaders when it comes to party policy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You just mentioned to me that you were in Iraq about 3 years ago. Did you see signs?
3 weeks ago,
Pardon me, 3 weeks ago, pardon me. Did you see signs that the surge is working?
Yes, both the Iraqi leaders with whom we talked and our military commanders were cautiously optimistic about the signs that they were already seeing that the surge was having a positive impact. And in the news since then, it's been 3 weeks of pretty good news. Now, they caution there will always be good days and bad, and of course there have been some other violent events. But so far, the new Petraeus plan does appear to be working.
So what's your strategy to prevent the Democrats from micromanaging this war?
Two things. First of all, to continue to point to the successes of the Petraeus plan, and secondly, to demonstrate that micromanaging from Congress can lead to very bizarre results. Democrats right now are very much in confusion about what they want to do, and you can just imagine you need one commander, not 100 senators or over 400 House members. Exactly.
Do you think it's hard to get some of the good developments that are happening in Iraq out there and sort of to the public?
It is hard, and especially because the administration is not wanting to make too much of the good news right now.
Not too much of a build-up, really.
That's right, because they're afraid if they emphasize the good news, something bad will happen, and then they'll be accused of trying to gild the lily there. So they're being very cautious about it.
Having just been there 3 weeks ago, you've had an experience that most people have not had. Was there something that really struck you?
There were a couple things. First of all, the Iraqi leaders, one of them in particular, said that he'd been walking the streets talking to regular Iraqis, and he said they think this time it's different. They feel something different about the way that the strategy is playing out. And remember, it's not just more troops. It's the way the Iraqis are staying in an area after it's been cleared, so the neighborhood continues to be stable and peaceful. I also saw the weaponry coming in from Iran that is having, or was having, such a devastating impact. There's no question that the Iranians are up to this, up to their eyes.
Up to it. I just want to turn to the U.S. Attorney's story. Several emails were released this week, one from Kyle Sampson, the former Chief of Staff to the Attorney General, and it says that you were okay with the firing of the U.S. Attorney in Arizona, but then your press person came out afterwards and said that was not the case. Can you sort of clear it up for us?
That's right. These emails are very confusing and contradictory, and at least in this case, incorrect. The Attorney General called me about the U.S. Attorney in Arizona. And I said I was a good friend of his. He was a good man, and I wished that they'd send somebody up to tell me about it. Paul Charlton.
Correct.
And so they did. And I persuaded the person that came up to see me to urge the Attorney General to reconsider the decision, to give him another opportunity. He decided subsequently to go ahead and step down anyway, but no, I was not fine with it.
You were not fine with it. Do you still support the Attorney General in his position?
There are a couple things I don't comment on. Ethics investigations, intelligence, and whether cabinet officials should or should not stay. And so I'm not going to get into that.
Do you think that this whole episode is damaging for the party, or do you think the public, I mean, what have you heard from your constituents?
It is. It was handled in a very ham-fisted way by the administration and particularly the Department of Justice. In one sense, everybody acknowledges the president can fire any of these people that he wants to without cause, but the Democrats have made such a big deal out of the contradictions in the way it's been explained that it does have a negative impact. If it had simply been explained at the very beginning in the correct way, then all of this could have been avoided.
Senator, thank you for coming and for clearing up the record for us. Appreciate it. If you're looking to update or get a new U.S. passport, be prepared to wait even if you pay an extra fee to speed up your application. The State Department says it's dealing with a crush of new applications, more than 1 million a month. The deluge began in late January when the government started requiring U.S. airline passengers, including kids, to show a passport when they're traveling from Mexico, Canada, or the Caribbean. Before 9/11, there was the terror attack on the USS Cole in the port of Aden in Yemen. That killed 17 U.S. sailors. For 7 years, the family has fought for compensation from Sudan. Once the home of Osama bin Laden, will they ever see justice? And the Iranian government has a new enemy on their list. We'll tell you who it is and why some Iranians are accusing the U.S. of psychological warfare. That's coming up on Weekend Live.
My kids call me the finisher. Finish up in there.
Okay.
Finish your homework?
Yes.
Finish your vegetables. Something I thought I was finished with? Managing my acid reflux disease. I thought it was just bad heartburn, but my doctor said over time, stomach acid was damaging the lining of my esophagus. She prescribed Nexium, said I needed more than heartburn relief. My esophagus needed repair. One prescription Nexium pill a day not only relieves my heartburn, it healed erosions in my esophagus. So I don't just feel better, I am better. My doctor did say headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain could be side effects of Nexium, and other serious stomach conditions may still exist.
Talk to your doctor about Nexium, the healing purple pill, and find out if a free trial is right for you.
I tell him you shouldn't do anything halfway. Let's finish up.
If you're without prescription coverage and can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
If we all lived here, we wouldn't have to worry about what's in our water. But most of us live here. So we need the Brita pitcher. Its filter removes 98% of lead and reduces chlorine flavor and copper. So even if you don't live here, you can still have healthier, clean-tasting water.
Now get great-tasting water from your refrigerator with refrigerator filters from Brita.
I'm seeking a match for good times. Must have a passion for music. Looks are important to me. I like making movies, playing games, sharing lots of pictures, quiet time.
With over 60,000 Windows Vista trained employees, Best Buy will match you up with a PC you'll love.
Got anything like that?
This gateway has everything you're looking for.
And Geek Squad can personalize it for you. Right now, when you buy a new PC, get this great offer from Geek Squad. It's time to love your PC. Come find your match at Best Buy.
There's a peace of mind that comes with owning gold and other precious metals. Gold is a hard asset, easy to store, easy to transport, easy to value, and easy to sell. Gold has proven to be a profitable investment through good times and bad. We'd like to offer you this free information kit that will introduce you to the world of gold and precious metal investing. Our professionals are standing by to answer your questions. Please call us today at the number on your screen. Your satisfaction is our top priority.
Homeowners want to refinance and get cash? Countrywide has a great reason to do it now. A no-cost refi. It has no points, no application fee, no credit reporting fee, and no third-party fees, no title, escrow, or appraisal fees. Absolutely no closing costs, so you wind up with a lot more cash. Call now and ask for a no-cost refi. We're America's #1 home loan lender, and no one can do what Countrywide can. Call 1-800-641-7136.
Right now in real time, airline delays across the country after a sudden burst of winter weather kept planes on the ground. Folks across the Northeast are dealing with snow, ice, and rain. Protesters gather in the nation's capital to demonstrate against the war in Iraq. Counter-protesters say the Capitol's memorials should not be used as props for political statements. And the White House says it's against a bill that would give the District of Columbia its first full seat in the House of Representatives. The Bush administration says the bill is simply unconstitutional, and that's what we're watching right now. A federal judge this week ruled that the African nation of Sudan is liable for the October 2000 suicide attack on the USS Cole, which killed 17 sailors. In a lawsuit, families of the victims accused Sudan of providing financial support and a safe haven to bin Laden's network. Joining us here is Andrew Hall. He's the lawyer who represented the families. Andrew, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Did Sudan cooperate at all in this lawsuit?
No, Sudan resisted the lawsuit in every way it could. Ultimately, when the court found that there was a good basis for the case to go forward, it refused to provide any information. It was defiant. It wrote letters to the court telling the court it would not cooperate and not participate.
That's interesting.
But its lawyers were there.
Oh, that's interesting. I want to ask you, how were you able to draw the link between Sudan and the attacks? The attacks took place in another country.
Well, but there's a lot of evidence of Sudan's complicity, and it was a question of basically drawing lines between the dots. There are a lot of dots out there in terms of financial aid. There are a lot of government reports out there that talk about the various pieces of it. There are intelligence reports, and there was prior testimony in other trials, criminal cases, by members of al-Qaeda that described exactly what type of activities occur inside Sudan.
Well, and of course,
so all those things. Sorry, go
I was
ahead.
just saying, of course, it was once home to Osama bin Laden before he went to Afghanistan. And so what was the reaction of the families to this judgment?
Well, these families are in grief. They're still grieving. The fact that it's been 7 years hasn't improved their lives one bit. But what it does do is it identifies certain things as a reality. Number one, their loved ones were murdered. Number two, they were murdered because a state, a sovereign government, made it happen. And to that extent, they feel justice is occurring and they are feeling quite vindicated by it.
Do you think these families will ever see one dime from Sudan?
Yes, ma'am, I absolutely do.
And why is that?
There are $66 million of frozen assets in Sudan, and since November 2002, the law has allowed victims of terrorism to go into those frozen assets to satisfy these judgments. So they're going to see their money.
I may be a little skeptical, but sometimes the U.S. courts decide one thing, but for whatever reason, the State Department, for future diplomatic relations, decides that they're going to block the unfreezing of those assets.
you've got very good reason to be a skeptic, because until November 2002, that's exactly what happened. And I remember sitting in an office in the State Department talking to the person who was in charge of this thing, who had the nerve of saying victims were never going to see a dime on their cases. But fortunately, the Congress saw it differently, and in November 2002, they took that power away from the executive.
And so, do these families feel in any respect that after 9/11 they were forgotten? I mean, there is a real difference in the scale of these attacks, but the Cole was really one of the most significant events in the war on terror prior to 9/11.
Well, they were kind of forgotten. Everybody remembers the Cole, but when you say 9/11, you don't think of the emergency number, you think of September 11th. But there was a 10/12 before there was a 9/11, and nobody associates that with the Cole. So they're remembered, but they're not in the forefront. And so, you know, it's important because this case stands for the proposition that if you are a state sponsor of terrorism, you make terrorism easy. There is responsibility. There are people that are going to come and get you. Victims can strike back. That's what happened in court this week.
Andrew Hall, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Iranian expats in the U.S. and Canada are protesting the new Hollywood film 300, calling the depiction of ancient Persia irresponsible and distorted. The film tells the tale of an army of 300 Spartans defeating Xerxes' Persian army of thousands. Iranian bloggers claim the film is historically inaccurate and part of America's psychological warfare against their country. And right now, let's go live to some pictures of the Pentagon just outside of Washington, D.C. The anti-war rally began just about an hour ago. They started their trek, and now they are starting to arrive at the Pentagon, where there will be a series of rallies and speeches. We'll keep you posted. They may have lost the battle in the Senate to force troops home from Iraq, but that doesn't mean Democrats in the House are giving up. A fair and balanced debate is ahead. Then the Taliban aren't the only ones gaining a foothold in Afghanistan. Correspondent Dana Lewis is ahead reporting live from Kabul. That's on Weekend Live.
Could you turn that TV down, please?
Do you sometimes disturb others when you watch TV?
Oh, just a minute. Does that have to be so loud?
Tired of people asking you to turn the volume down? Now there's Listen Up, the personal sound amplifier that lets you turn the volume up for yourself without turning the volume up for everyone else. It turns ordinary hearing into extraordinary hearing. Look, it's smaller than a credit card, yet so powerful you can hear a pin drop from across the room or listen in on a conversation from across the street.
Have you met the new neighbors?
I haven't.
I met him. He seems nice.
Just insert the earphones and adjust the volume. It's that easy. Now you can enjoy TV programs even late at night or listen to your favorite music without disturbing anyone. Ever wonder what people are talking about across the room? Now with Listen Up, you can discreetly listen
He's
in.
in good shape, doesn't he? He's pretty cute.
Use Listen Up at sporting events and you'll hear all the action.
Ready?
Or listen in on the quiet sounds of nature. With this handy device, you'll never miss another word at lectures, movies, shows, or even church. And it's a great way to keep an ear on the children when they're out of range.
Hey, wait for me.
Ideal for the outdoorsman, too, because it lets you hear the wildlife before it hears you. Other sound amplifiers sell for up to $100. But call now and you can get Listen Up for only $14.99. With Listen Up, you can enjoy TV programs or listen to your favorite music without disturbing anyone. That's right, you get the Listen Up personal sound amplifier for the incredible price of just $14.99.
This offer is not available in stores, so call now.
To order Listen Up, have your credit card ready and call 1-800-401-9715. Call now and get Listen Up for only $14.99. This offer is not available in any store, so call 1-800-401-9715. That's 1-800-401-9715. Call now.
The world, the markets, the flow of ideas, flow of money, experience, the flow of goods, reputation, capital, knowledge of the marketplace, research, the political reality, the economic reality, practical reality, relationships, brain power, the wisdom, the world. Morgan Stanley, Worldwise.
I'm Ron Michaels, and this is my story. I've been playing since I was in 7th grade. That's what makes my life worthwhile. I have joint problems in my hands. It hurts when you try to go up and you pick up the horn and you're trying to play, you move your fingers and they're just not doing what you want. When I take a leave, it takes away all the pain I have. I can move it now, just like I was when I was young. I feel so good I could do something like this. A leave gives me my life back. That's what it does.
Today's top stories at the bottom of the hour. In his radio address today, President Bush says Democrats are using troops as leverage to win domestic political battles. The president accuses Democrats of trying to use legislation to micromanage military commanders and spend billions on domestic projects that have nothing to do with the war on terror. Tens of thousands of anti-war demonstrators converging on the nation's capital. The protesters have already caused quite a ruckus, with police arresting several of them. Last night outside the White House, more than 200 people have been taken into custody by this morning. Iran's army commander warns the U.S. not to make any, quote, stupid moves over Tehran's nuclear program, even suggesting that the U.S. could be surprised by Iran's military response if the country is attacked. The comments are the latest in a series of defiant statements by Iran's leadership as the UN prepares to vote on new, tougher sanctions against that country. The German foreign minister says an open discussion is needed to address concerns over a U.S. plan to build a missile defense system in Europe. The U.S. plan would place 10 missile interceptors in Poland and a radar base in the neighboring Czechoslovakia to protect Europe and the east coast of the United States from the possibility of rockets launched from the Middle East. And the U.S. military announced today that about 350 Iraqi civilians, including 6 coalition force members, are being treated for chlorine gas exposure. This after 2 suicide truck bombers driving tanks filled with chlorine blew up in 2 locations south of Fallujah. There was also a smaller attack at a checkpoint near Ramadi. 1 Iraqi civilian was treated for exposure there. Insurgents are using chlorine as a weapon. At least 2 bombings involved chlorine, killing 8 in February of this year. Meantime, Senate Democrats not able to pass legislation this week that would have set a timetable for withdrawing troops from Iraq. But Speaker Nancy Pelosi is vowing to continue the fight through efforts in the House, and a debate will begin next week. Here to weigh in, is Democratic Representative Diane Watson of California, and also joining us, Republican Representative Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. Ladies, thanks for coming. Diane, I'll start with you. Let's talk about this chlorine gas issue. You told me in the break that this is like sending our troops to the gas chamber.
Absolutely. And believe me, this is just another tactic of whoever that enemy is over there. And they are working on new ways to attack our troops. And the only way we're going to stop it, and the only way that we're going to save the country of Iraq, is diplomatically, and we have to negotiate politically. We are not going to do it with guns and bullets. We train our courageous people here to go in and fight the enemy. But the enemy comes up with all kinds of different methods that are not accepted. And so we must get our troops out of there and use our political forces.
Right. I want to bring Marsha in. You heard what she just said, but we just had Senator Kyle on a short time ago who said that there are some signs of progress in Iraq despite these chlorine attacks. Do you think the Democrats are really trying to micromanage this through the funding issue?
Catherine, I do think that they're trying to micromanage this through the funding issue, and we're seeing it time and again. Timetables, artificial timelines, artificial benchmarks, things of that nature. It's inappropriate to micromanage our men and women in the field, micromanage General Petraeus and his team, and I find it very inappropriate. When we hear about the chlorine attacks, we should be asking, where did they get the chlorine? Did it come in from Iran? Did it come in from Syria? Is this some of the chlorine that Saddam had left? Are there Baathists out there who know where this is, who know where he stockpiled the gases that he used to kill so many of the Kurds? Those are the questions that we should be asking. We're going to fight these terrorists over there, or we're going to be finding this chlorine gas in the streets in the United States. We do not have a choice. We have to win in the war on terror, and you cannot negotiate with the terrorists.
Would you disagree with that? I mean, if we do...
100%. 100%. Okay. Because the terrorists are part of the government. We're in the middle of a sectarian dispute between the Sunnis and the Shiites. And they're just waiting for us to come into harm's way, and they're going to kill us with bullets, they're going to shoot down our helicopters, or they're going to gas us. Because when you have thousands, let me finish, when you have thousands of suicidal youth, absolutely, you need to hear my point.
Sure, absolutely.
And when you have thousands of people willing to give their lives, you know, how do you stop them?
Well, Marcia, come right in.
I'll be happy to. You know, what we know is that we have terrorists who are out. Look at Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's confession this week. Planned 32 attacks. They're out to kill us. They're out to destroy our way of life. They have told us that Iraq is the central front in the war on terror. We know that. So why would we leave the front? We have to ask the question, what would happen if we leave, and are we willing to say to the terrorists, you win, we're gone, we lose? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. Catherine, no one likes war. No one likes to be involved in a war, but there are times that it is necessary to defend our freedom. We have to look at the cost to our country, look at the hundreds of billions of dollars that it cost our country. And quite frankly, I'll tell you, on this funding issue, I find it just despicable that the Democrats want $16 million to redecorate the offices, but they don't want to put that money into body armor and gas masks and things of that nature that our troops need.
Diana,
we have
I'm
troops in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and in 30 countries around the world fighting in the war on terror to be certain that middle-class families, that Americans that go to work every day are safe in their homes and safe in their schools. That should be our #1 priority in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Well, I'm going to give you the last response.
Yeah, we have dumped billions of dollars into Iraq. Halliburton, unbidded contract. Now, Halliburton is moving to Dubai. There are $9 billion missing. That money could go to protect
our... moving to Dubai. We are not dumping money. We are spending it wisely on the men and women that are securing our great nation.
I'm going to have to jump in here. We're going to have you back because we're clearly not finished, but we've run out of time. Thank you, ladies, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Poppy season is happening right now in Afghanistan as the winter gives way to spring. Could the opium trade fund the Taliban like it did before 9/11? Dana Lewis is live on the video from Kabul. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Catherine. You know, as you well know, opium is not only a problem in terms of the production in Afghanistan for the world. More than 90% of the supply of opium worldwide comes from here. But increasingly, you know, as we've been talking to people here in the Afghan government and society here, you strongly get the impression that it is in the long term a threat to the stability of the Afghan government itself because of connections between the government, members of government, powerful drug warlords, and then the actual Taliban itself, the insurgency itself now being funded by some of that opium production. This week, Afghan authorities again trying to eradicate poppy fields, which produce opium for heroin. Farmers angry but watching passively as tractors guarded by the police dug up fields near Jalalabad. But overall, opium production is expected to rise again in this year, in 2007. It was already up by 60% in 2006. Opium accounting for 35% of the Afghan economy. Why can't Afghanistan deal with this? It's all about powerful drug warlords working with the Taliban and deep government corruption.
I think they have to fight it at all levels, not only at the highest level. Of course, I mean, it goes without saying that the highest level is the most important. But it also have to show results to the average person in the country. You know, that people in the local administration are clean.
And Catherine, the director of the anti-corruption department, perception is reality, some say here, he was convicted of selling heroin in a Las Vegas hotel room back in the late 1980s, and he served 4 years in a U.S. prison. He was appointed recently by President Hamid Karzai. Back to you.
That's incredible. Dana, thanks a lot. The 2012 Summer Olympics are starting to look like a contest of physical fitness. The revised budget for the London Games is already nearly 4 times more than originally promised. Hosting the Games will cost the Brits almost $18 billion. Construction costs will come from taxes, lottery revenues, and corporate sponsors. And now for a look at what's happening at the top of the hour on Fox News Live, let's go to Jamie Colby, who's in New York. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Catherine. Good to see you. Coming up at 2 p.m., we have a story that just might save your loved one's life. You hear all too often about missing kids or disabled adults who wander off. It's often a race against time to find them. Well, coming up, we're going to tell you about a new and potentially life-saving device. It has a 100% recovery rate. And folks are still stranded in airports up and down the East Coast. If you were one of them, what would you want the airlines to do when they cancel your flight? I'd love to hear from you. Email me at jamie@foxnews.com. We're going to read some of those when I see you at the top of the hour, 2 p.m. Eastern on Fox News Live. Maybe, Catherine, just maybe, the airlines will hear us and give us more when they cancel our flight.
A little hope is always good. Jamie, thanks.
Great to see you.
You know, it's St. Patrick's Day when the Chicago River flows green. We just got some brand new video into Fox from the Windy City. Wow, that's green, all right. Where for the 45th year in a row, Chicago has dyed the river. They call it Irish Kelly Green, appropriately. Despite some chilly temps, the city's 52nd annual parade is now underway, and that's a pretty amazing video. It's not just celebrities. Average Americans are finding babies to call their own in far-off lands. Why are so many of us going overseas to adopt kids? And a shocking week on American Idol. We've got the lowdown on the action.
My girlfriend and I were talking about osteoporosis, and she told me she has to set aside time one morning every week to take her osteoporosis pill. I said, I take once monthly Boniva. It fits my routine. And she said, that I can do. Boniva helps build strong, healthy bones to prevent fractures with just one pill a month. With all I do for bone health, Boniva fits right in.
Unlike weekly treatments like Fosamax, you only need Boniva once a month.
No wonder 2 out of 3 women preferred the dosing of Boniva over a weekly treatment.
You should not take Boniva if you have low blood calcium, severe kidney disease, or cannot sit or stand for at least 60 minutes. Follow dosing instructions carefully. Stop taking Boniva and tell your doctor if you experience difficult or painful swallowing, chest pain, or severe or continuing heartburn, as these may be signs of serious upper digestive problems.
Ask your doctor if Boniva is right for you. My girlfriend is so glad she did.
Don't wait another week. Ask your doctor for a free trial offer or call 1-800-4-BONIVA.
Hey, these guys joined my team and lost weight.
Mike Golick, 51 pounds.
Sean Salisbury, 35 pounds.
Scott Conover, 100 pounds.
Hey, Marino, I lost 32 pounds.
Get real results with Nutrisystem for Men.
You know, my wife told me I'm not as disgusting to her as I used to be.
Call or go online now to get 4 weeks of awesome food. Plus, through this special offer, you'll also get an extra week of hearty meals free.
Burgers, pizzas, lasagna, pot roast.
Eat like a man and still lose weight.
Our secret is the breakthrough science of the glycemic advantage that separates good carbs from bad. Now carbs are no longer off limits.
Nutrisystem worked for me. Trust me, it'll work for you.
About $10 a day gets you 4 full weeks of rib-sticking meals.
Pick up the phone and lose weight.
Order our 4-week men's program and get an extra 7 breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and desserts. A full week of food and a $70 value absolutely free. So call now.
It's not just about reaching your goals. It's about reaching your dreams, too. Now with HSBC Direct Online Savings, you'll earn 6% APY on new money until April 30th. 11 times the national savings average. Go to hsbcdirect.com for details and reach your goals and your dreams faster.
Right now in real time, 7 people are dead and at least 10 more are injured after a Tu-134 aircraft crash landed in the Russian city of Samara today. Some 57 people were on board. The State Department says it's wading through an unprecedented crush of passport applications. A spokesman says it could take more than 10 weeks to process them. And Menu Foods, a pet food manufacturer, is recalling some 60 million containers of moist pet food after reports of kidney failure and 10 other related deaths in dogs and cats. And that's what we're watching right now. It's not just Angelina and Madonna. More and more American parents are adopting kids from other countries. Last year, Americans adopted more than 20,000 children from abroad. So why are prospective parents looking overseas? And is this hurting domestic adoptions in any way? Corey Barron is from Children's Hope International, based in St. Louis, Missouri, and he joins us. Corey, let's just start with some of the basics. It was shocking to see that for people who are over 35, it's easier to adopt overseas than it is in this country. Why is that?
A lot of it comes down to a parent in that age range from 35 to 45, which we see for international adoptions. They have a more difficult time having a very young mother saying, yes, I want you to raise my child. That's why we see a lot of folks that come into international adoption say it was difficult to adopt domestically. Not that they didn't want to, they just found it to be a difficult process for them.
So for small babies in domestic adoptions, they really want young families with kids?
Oh, certainly that could be the case sometimes, because if the parent is very, very young, sometimes they want to give their child to a younger parent. And since in our Western society, so many of us are getting married later and then decide to have children later than that, most of our parents who are up for adoption, who are ready for adoption, are in that 35 to 45 age range. And that's why we see so many in that age range interested in international adoption.
Are they also going overseas because there's less fear of a comeback from the biological parents?
There is some of that. That's probably the #1 reason. It's the finality of the process that they like. Once they have that baby in their arms, they know it's done. They know it's final, and that child is with them for as long as that child is with them.
And so how does this growing number of overseas adoptions affect adoptions in this country?
In general, if you see the statistics from international adoption, those have been going way up. From 1990 until 2005, there's been a pretty steep increase in the number of people coming to Children's Hope International or other international adoption agencies. But also, we see that it's been pretty steady in domestic adoption. So in reality, I think we're just seeing more people who are interested in adoption, which is a good thing. There are 143 million orphans in this world, and the best thing for them is to be in a loving home.
You've had a lot of experience. What, in your opinion, is the best pairing? Is it American families with American kids, or is it American families with foreign kids?
I think the best pairing for any child is to be adopted in the country in which they were born. But because there isn't a lot of domestic adoption in some of the countries we serve, like in China or Vietnam or Russia, as we see that domestic adoption go up in those countries, we hope to see international adoption go down. But until that time happens, you got to get these kids into homes. If they grow up in an institution, it's not a place where they're going to have the foundation for their life beyond the institution. They're not going to know what they should be. They don't have any kind of idea of the love of a family.
All right,
or even...
it's an excellent point, and Corey, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot, Catherine.
Snow and ice isn't stopping New York City from celebrating St. Patrick's Day. We'll take a look at Old Man Winter's comeback in the Northeast this weekend and a look at the national forecast. And John McCain revs up the Straight Talk Express, but can his campaign steer clear of an early rut? Chief Political Correspondent Carl Cameron is traveling with McCain.
Big news from the blues. Now cracked macaroni and cheese is even cheesier. Another reason why more kids love the one in the blue box.
These new blues are the cheesiest ones yet. We got new blues. It's the cheesiest.
Another busy day in big banking.
Something's in my putting line.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I've got a great business plan, and as you can see, my business has really taken off.
I think it's a small business owner. Probably looking for a handout.
Our fourth quarter profits.
Nice shot. Mind if we play through?
Does your bank think small about your small business? Call Capital One instead for no-hassle business loans, lines of credit, and credit cards. Check your mailbox.
Hello, Capital One.
Business plan. What's in your wallet?
I'm a mother of 3 and a grandmother. My husband, he said I was hot.
I haven't had this smoking hot body since I was in college.
You can't miss the results of the new Nutrisystem Nourish, the easy weight loss program that lets you eat great and lose weight.
I'm a 40-year-old mom, and I think I look better than ever.
Call or go online now to get 4 weeks of delicious meals and lose weight. Plus, you'll also get an extra week of Nutrisystem meals free.
It's so simple. With Nutrisystem, if you can eat, you can lose weight.
Our secret is the breakthrough science of the glycemic advantage that separates good carbs from bad.
My husband loves my new body. In fact, he jokingly calls me his trophy wife.
Nutrisystem delivers every meal to your door, and shipping is free.
I love it, I love it, I love it.
For about $10 a day, you'll enjoy 4 weeks of perfectly portioned meals.
How can you argue with results like these?
Get our 4-week program, and we'll send you an extra 7 breakfasts, 7 lunches, 7 dinners, and 7 desserts. A full week of food absolutely free. Call now.
What do you know about computers?
My daughter definitely knows how to use a computer better than I do half the time, and she's 3.5.
Hi, I'm John Scherer, CEO and founder of Video Professor. I've been hearing comments like that for over 18 years now. Listen to this.
I did the Excel, and it was a lot of fun. Really? I had a real good time. I learned a lot.
The difference, just 1 hour with one of my CDs, and they're easy to use. The CD plays like a video on your computer screen. Just follow the step-by-step instructions. And if you call right now, I'll send you any lesson of your choice free. The reason I can do this is because I know that once you try my product, you'll come back to us for all your computer learning needs. If you can't learn for any reason, I'll not only refund your shipping and processing, but I'll send you $10. So learn a new skill in less than an hour. Try my product.
I think that's the most fun I've had learning something about the computer.
To get your free computer learning CD, you must call now.
Call 1-800-479-9415. For another quick check of that big nor'easter that's making St. Patrick's Day. That's a nice little graphic, isn't it? A little tough for some travelers. Meteorologist Rick Reichmuth has that update. Hi, Rick.
Hey, yeah, things are going to be much better across the Northeast, but still windy and still cold. The cold air really not going anywhere, at least say probably until maybe Wednesday or so, unfortunately. Here's a look, though. Still have winter storm warnings across much of Maine and New Hampshire. And then here's some heavy snow warnings right across the southern shore of Lake Ontario. Now behind the system, the wind picks up. It's going to continue blowing from the north, and that means we're going to see some pretty heavy snow from around Rochester back towards Syracuse. The rain, though, exiting much of the northeast and still around parts of Maine. Going to see some flooding concerns as well as some pretty high wind. Temperature-wise, only into the 30s today and tomorrow, so unfortunately, still feeling very much like winter across much of the east. Catherine.
Rick, thanks a lot. Just days after relaunching his Straight Talk Express in Iowa, Republican presidential candidate John McCain is now in New Hampshire. And with him, our chief political correspondent, Carl Cameron. Carl, I can see that it's absolutely freezing there and there's a lot of snow. Does that in any way impact the campaign, or do they just keep on going?
Yes and no, I guess, and it depends on the candidate. Barack Obama and John McCain canceled events last night. Not so much because they didn't want to do it, but because the snow was falling, and in some places it's been more than a foot, so they don't want to be responsible for people getting into accidents trying to get to their events. But John McCain did make it today. He actually had a snowplow, hired a guy to lead his caravan, his bus trip, the Straight Talk Express, and a press bus, and then a couple of chase cars behind that with stragglers, just clearing the roads. Mr. McCain today had a town hall meeting in Milford, not too far from Manchester where we are now. And a good-sized crowd showed up braving the storm. Pretty standardized freewheeling exchange for the Arizona senator, who has sort of made his name in New Hampshire for the 100 consecutive town hall meetings that he held back in 2000 when he won the New Hampshire primary and lost the nomination to George Bush. One of the things that's happening now, notwithstanding the storm and everything else, is the concern in the first primary state that what is looking like a quasi-national primary on February 5th is going to, in some way, undermine the influence and importance of the first-of-the-nation test here in the Granite State. And Mr. McCain was asked about that just before he got on the bus a short time ago. Here's how he put it.
It sounds a little bit
pandering. But the fact is the people of New Hampshire take their responsibilities very seriously. They're used to them. They come to town hall meetings. They know what this primary in New Hampshire means, and I think it'd be a shame if this kind of thing disappeared from American politics.
And the concern is that with all the airport tarmacs and huge rallies that many of the other states that will be voting almost immediately after New Hampshire usually have, they won't have the type of interaction that can take place here. Senator McCain back in 2000 was a big critic of George W. Bush. He said that the then Texas governor would be a big spender and that the tax cuts needed to be offset, and had a whole series of policy criticisms. And he's been a harsh critic of the Bush administration throughout much of the last 6.5 years. And on his bus, we asked if he sometimes doesn't feel the inclination to say, "I told you so," because he has an awful lot of criticisms of the Bush administration, things that he warned about so many years ago. Here's how he tried to shrug off the question.
People would go around and say, "I told you so." You know, I'm not sure. I think I can describe my record without saying, you know, you should have listened to me. You know, they did listen to me. Just not enough.
And Senator McCain coming here in Manchester to a Democratic stronghold, the famous French-Canadian diner Chez Vachon, hoping to follow in the footsteps of others on the campaign trail here. Bill Clinton used to eat here an awful lot for breakfast, and he got elected. Virtually every Democratic president who's ever been president has made stops here. John McCain, the Republican, looking for a little crossover support on the west side of the Queen City. Catherine?
You're so busy, but I still see that green tie peeking out. Carl, well done. Thank you. It's almost time for our weekly fix of American Idol, including the on-air teasing between Simon Cowell and Ryan Seacrest. It used to be kind of funny. Now it's just uncomfortable. How much is real and how much is staged for the cameras?
Look closely at how dramatically these wrinkles diminish, seeming to disappear with just one application of Genisphere with Q-Zomes. When doctors saw these results, they were astonished.
I haven't seen anything like it since Botox, and the clinical evidence is clear.
This is what my patients want. Dramatic results you can see immediately on the eyes, the lips, even the cheeks.
And it's available without a prescription.
Genisphere's patented, clinically tested ingredients work like no other anti-wrinkle formula can. Not Chanel, not Lancome, not even Botox.
They took my picture and put this cream around my eye. I went to lunch, and when I got back, just look. The lines, the wrinkles, I don't see them anymore.
Apply it each morning like your normal moisturizer. Genisphere's patented microscopic carriers called Q-Zomes bring absorbent hyaluronic spheres deep into the epidermis where they nestle beneath each wrinkle. Then, absorbing your body's natural moisture, they expand and gently lift wrinkles from beneath.
With daily use, a woman could look years younger than her age for life.
Many of my patients come to see me to avoid surgery. With Genisphere, they can affect the appearance of age lines and crow's feet without surgery or injections.
This revolutionary formula actually lifts wrinkles from beneath. Genisphere is already selling for $99. But if you call right now, you'll find out how to get a month's supply of Genisphere absolutely free. You will see dramatic results, usually with the very first application.
The results are quite dramatic. You see a difference with the very first application.
Genisphere works because it's backed by real science with real results.
Please do not delay. Introductory free supplies are limited. Call now for rush delivery.
Call 1-800-713-7095. That's 1-800-713-7095. Learn how to get a 1-month supply of Genisphere free at 1-800-713-7095.
When the unexpected happens, no one is more focused on getting things back to normal again than your farmer's agent. Isn't that what auto insurance is supposed to do? It's wonderful. Farmers Auto Insurance. Gets you back where you belong.
To find a farmer's agent near you, call 1-800-FARMERS.
And And this is a Fox News alert. You're looking live at the anti-war protesters who have just reached the Pentagon. They set off about an hour ago. Originally, they'd said they were expecting some 30,000 people, but reports from our correspondents on the ground indicate that it's actually been much less, just in the few thousand. And we'll bring you more when we get it. First American Idol finalist is gone, and to many people's surprise, it wasn't Sanjaya who got the boot. Is he, oh my goodness me, is he finally going home? I'm just so overwhelmed by that story. And has the whole competition become a three-woman show? For those answers, let's turn to Jill Dobson from Star Magazine. Okay, so is it a three-woman show? And if so, how do they keep the suspense going now?
Well, Catherine, yeah, I'm overwhelmed, as you are, that Sanjaya is still in the race, but this really is the women's year. There are three women who have really emerged along. Earlier, it was two women, Lakeisha and Melinda, and now Jordan came out strong during the Diana Ross week with her Diana Ross song, and so now the three of them are really leading the pack, and this show is extremely well produced. That's really the key to it, and the producers have realized, you know what, it might be getting a little boring now that we have such clear frontrunners, so let's make the most of the other aspects, the behind-the-scenes tension, arguments between Ryan and Simon, and they're really playing up the tension between Ryan and Simon.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch that, do you get the sense that it's, I mean, it's really just staged and they're milking it, or do they just have bad chemistry?
I think they have great on-camera chemistry, which is a little bit of tension and arguing. And what they had was, I think Tuesday night, the two of them kind of argued about who should come out of the closet first. And then they replayed that the following night. I may have my nights mixed up, but they made sure and replayed that same argument again for the viewers to try to play up a little bit of what else is interesting about the show besides the singing.
Well, if you get paid that much, I mean, I guess you can take a few hits on national TV and not be too worried, right?
Exactly. These two are having fun at each other's expense, and if it gets you and I talking about it, that's even better for the show, so I'm sure they're happy to play that up.
Okay, so you're appalled at this Sanjaya situation. If he does not go this week, are you going to personally lobby for his toss?
You know, we just might have to do a layout in Star Magazine about why is Sanjaya still in the race. We did a big layout saying, is Lakeisha the next Jennifer Hudson, the next star to really break out well beyond American Idol and make it in the worlds of film and music? Now we might have to do a layout saying, people, stop voting for Sanjaya. It's time for him to go. Antonella Barba limped along for a few weeks without great singing ability, and she had immense name recognition after the scandal with the photos that emerged of her. I don't know how Sanjaya is staying in, but I don't think he has much time left.
Okay, Jill Dobson, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And finally, there's this. Television history last night as three contestants on Jeopardy had the correct answer during the final Jeopardy, causing the first ever three-way tie. Never in the show's 23-year history has an installment ended with all three contestants winning. In fact, the odds of it happening are 1 in 25 million. Wow, that's a lot. A statistic that is sure to be a Jeopardy question one day. A rematch is scheduled to air this Monday. And that does it for this edition of Weekend Live. I'm Catherine Herridge. Thanks for watching. Stay with Fox. Real journalism, fair and balanced. We report. You know the rest. Here's Jamie.